Happy Wednesday, everybody, and here we go. We're getting ready for the kickoff of college football tomorrow night. There's actually a dozen games tomorrow. Number one, of course, is the Florida Gators headed to face the Utah Utes in Salt Lake City. A lot of people excited about that game, and a lot of people from Utah wanting revenge after last year's visit to the Swamp, where Anthony Richardson had a career day against the Utes. But the big news is actually quarterbacks. You got who's going to be the quarterback. You've got Cam Rising, who's coming off of a injury, and he is questionable but likely to play. And you've got the Gators with Graham Mertz, who is the new quarterback there. Now, Graham Mertz came to them from Wisconsin, where he had I wouldn't say it's a bad experience, but it wasn't a great one either. He went to Florida, and obviously Billy Napier thinks that what he can do with Graham Mertz is make him like a Kyle Trask. If you are a fan of the Gators, you know that Trask was often put in positions by Dan Mullen where he was a good game manager, and then if there's something that he thought he could hit, in other words, if there was a deep pass to be thrown, Mertz in this case is the guy that they hope to throw it. But in the case of Kyle Trask, he hit all the different passes. So right here is the situation where you've got a new offense with Florida trying to see how things work against a very veteran Utah team, which is, depending upon what poll you look at, they're either the 11th best team in the country or the 14th best team in the country. So, and Florida's coming off of a rare losing season. So we're going to have a lot to talk about with that game tomorrow. Also, UCF, who makes their Big 12 debut, is at home at the Bounce House against Kent State. So those are just two of a dozen games tomorrow. There's then going to be 4 games on Thursday, and God knows how many. We're talking about 50 or 60 games on Saturday, another 6 or so on Sunday, and then on Monday there's one game. So if you like college football, this is your weekend. Also, quick update before we get to questions, and that is that John McEnroe tested positive for COVID. So he will not be in the ESPN booth to call the U.S. Open tennis which started on Monday. So Mac and will be sitting at home, and Chris Fowler and of course Patrick McEnroe will do the duties for the folks at ESPN. So McEnroe out, and any weather issues for the UCF thing. Good morning, KJ. There should not be. That's going to be tomorrow night. The hurricane is passing through there as we speak. Hopefully, if any of you are watching us in that area, take shelter and be careful. I don't think that's going to be a problem, KJ. I think that by tomorrow it will be out of that area. The hurricane itself is going basically, cutting across just where the panhandle begins to bend, if you can look at a map of Florida. So some of that rain is going to be in Tallahassee area where FSU is, and then some of it's going to be in Orlando area where, of course, the game's going to be played tomorrow. So I don't think there's going to be any issues there. I haven't heard anything about the game being postponed or anything like that. So I would think that Kent State and UCF will be able to play that game tomorrow night. It's on FS1 for those of you wishing to watch the game. And it will be their first Big 12 telecast, as a matter of fact, as part of the conference, as the Knights take on the Golden Flashes of Kent State. So should be a pretty good little thing. Now, I don't know if you remember this, guys, but UCF used to be part of the MAC. They among the number of conferences that they came through on their way to the Big 12, they were in the MAC. They were in the Conference USA, and then they jumped to the Big East, and then from the Big East, of course, that was the American. So yeah, they've moved on and moved their way up the ranks. So 100%, they've earned their stripes. So I don't expect tomorrow to have a problem. So if you're a UCF or a Kent State fan and you're going to watch the game, you should be able to do it. If you're going to be in Orlando, it's likely to be pretty muggy and warm. I mean, that's pretty much so yeah, tomorrow's game will be on between Central Florida and Kent State. So be careful, and let's go from here. Let's go to our Twitter questions and see what we got going on Twitter at this point in time. And we have the usual, which is basically there's a lot of people who are not fans of Stanford and Cal getting into the ACC. Will probably know in the not too distant future whether that's going to happen or it's not going to happen. This is starting to get, of course, the tragic situation at the University of North Carolina the other night did cause them to stop, and should have, with the active shooter thing. And now we've got the hurricane in Florida, which is going to delay a situation from Tallahassee. And then, over in Dallas today, they're voting on the CFB. So they'll get to it. If they've got the votes to get it done, they'll get it done over Thursday or Friday. If they don't, then I expect that they'll issue a statement. I don't think it would be wise for them to vote in public and vote it down. It would be a bad look for the conference. It would be a bad look for those schools who voted against it. So it'd be much easier just to issue a statement saying, upon further review, we've decided we're not going to do that at this point in time. Now, some of you say that the votes against them could be North Carolina, Miami, FSU, and North Carolina State. Possibly, if that's where it is. I mean, right now, I don't think they would have, if they're not going to have a meeting if they're not going to vote on it. Okay, so that's just the way it goes. So let's keep an eye out. If you see that they've scheduled a meeting, it's probably, if you're a Stanford, Cal, an SMU fan, it's good news. If you don't see a vote coming in the next few days, then they're still haggling over money or whatever at that point in time. So keep an eye out for that, and we'll definitely keep an eye out here to let you know what we see. So anyway, the other thing that we're talking about is that, as I said before, we've got a heck of a good series of games coming up over the next few days, and I think it's important that we want to see them. And the good news is ESPN, Fox, NBC, Peacock, Paramount Plus. Let's see, who am I missing? Fox, FS1. They're all going to have games, and not just a few. They're going to have a lot. So if you're a college football fan, it's going to be fun the next few days. And I think that one of the things we have to keep our eye on here now is whether or not what comes next with Stanford, Cal, and SMU. If they don't get into the ACC, what happens? Well, some have said, it's the Pac-4. Maybe they'll try to, go with the Mountain West. That's a possibility. The other one is that they would onboard probably they'd have to at least do 4 American conference schools, because their payouts are less than Mountain West. Or they could just, again, join the Americans. So they've got options if this doesn't work out. And, I don't know where they're going to go with this if it goes to, if the ACC doesn't vote them in. But those are the three options that are most, easiest to check out. And I think that we'll see. We'll have some fun over the next few days figuring out what's going on. We've got a question with regard to when is the timing. Again, the only thing that I know at this point in time is Thursday or Friday. If it goes past Thursday or Friday, then your guess is as good as mine, probably Monday, Tuesday. But I would, if they don't get it done over the next couple of days, that does not bode well for them getting it. So, James, thanks for that question. And you have a follow-up, which is, there's rumors that that the entire 4 group of PAC might enter. Well, I know that's a rumor. If they're having this trouble onboarding 3, I don't see them onboarding a lot to go. So we'll have some fun in checking that out. But no, I don't think that's, I don't think that's what's going on right now. But we'll see. But let me just check our little slowness on our Twitter feed, refresh it, and see what's going on. And all right, here we go. There we go. All right. Hey, Jerry, how you doing? Should they go ahead and accept these schools and argue about how they're going to distribute the money? I agree, Jerry. I think that's the way to go. They should go ahead and accept the schools and argue about it afterwards. Look, some money's better than no money, which is what they're getting out of this. And look, it's California, it's Stanford, and it's SMU. It's not like, this is chopped liver. These are 3 good institutions to add. So, if 2 or 3 of the schools vote against it, that's okay. But if they get the 12 votes, then I agree. I think they should just go ahead and add it. Doesn't make any sense to not do it. Okay, this has been flatly embarrassing for the league. Absolutely, I agree with you, Justin. 100%. The league looks like they can't, arrange an afternoon garden party at this point. And in some regards, it makes the 4 schools who are voting against it or have, voiced their opposition to it look very small. It's not been a good look. It's not been a good look for Florida State. It's not been a good look for Clemson or North Carolina State. I mean, it's like they're petulant children. And so that is not a good look. And so my hope is that they'll come together and make this work. If it doesn't, then it'll just show that the conference is at the moment broken. And I don't think that that's a good visual or in any way, shape, or form is that good optics for the conference. As a matter of fact, it's bad optics for the conference. And okay, stunned at this incompetence. Jim Phillips, who's the commissioner of the ACC, is a good man, and he has tried to put a ton of effort behind this. And if this doesn't go right, then that's a problem, and that'll be something that Phillips is going to have to overcome. I mean, that'll be, in essence, if those 4 vote against then that's kind of like a vote of no confidence for Phillips. And Phillips has been working every possible angle to get more money for the conference. So, it's a bad look, as you said, 100%. It's a bad look, and it would definitely be a bad look for Phillips, who has been, working hard to get this done. You trust the Terrell lemonade stand. That's a good one. Probably wouldn't make a lot of money at it at this point. Okay, do you think FSU and Clemson will get an invite to the Big Ten or the SEC in the next 5 years? I think they could. I think they could get an invitation to either conference somewhere. The problem is, the buyout. It's $120 million, and then there's the possibility, we've heard everything up to $500 million and all that to get out of it. If you looked at what the Big Ten and the SEC have done over the past in onboarding teams, in that situation, the Big Ten obviously, took USC and UCLA. That was when they didn't owe any money, so getting out of it was not a problem. And the same went a couple weeks ago when they onboarded Washington and Oregon. So, it was a cleaner situation. The SEC had to wait for a few years, for Texas and Oklahoma to join, and they're going to join next year. So that's that situation. The question that I would have is if FSU or Clemson ask for an invitation to the Big Ten or the SEC, if I'm the SEC or the Big Ten, if I say, all right, we would like you to come on board, how quickly could FSU and Clemson negotiate a way out? And I think that's where you start to get into billable hours with attorneys. That's at least $120 million to get out of the conference. And so we would say, would I be surprised? No, if they asked. I think that if those asks are coming from the Big Ten and the SEC, it's going to be closer to the end of their TV contracts, because that way they can they can see value-wise how much money they can get by adding FSU and Clemson. And frankly, FSU and Clemson are the two marquee teams left that hasn't been, entered into a major deal with the Big Ten or the SEC. So we'll see how that plays out. And so to answer your question, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I would be surprised if it wasn't 2 or 3 more years down the line. Not anytime soon. Okay. So thanks, Omar. Elitism may eventually be the downfall of college sports. It's a necessary evil for competition to be involved. Yeah, Jerry, the thing with that is that the players, the students, do not have any vote here. It's college presidents and athletic directors who are making these decisions without any input at all from the people who pay to go to the football games or basketball games or anything like that, or the families that are involved who, in some of these small towns that have college football. So, yeah, things are being, they're chasing money, and that's, okay, but they're not really looking at their rank and file, the students who pay the bills, and the some of the boosters. Yes, they're paying attention to some of the boosters, but not to the students, and not to in any way, shape, or form, not to the fan base as a whole. So there's no vote on this. They just decide it, and away they go. I can guarantee you that people who go to USC and UCLA would have, the students enjoy going up to Cal and to Stanford to watch games, and it's only 500 miles up the road. Their closest rivals now are Oregon and Washington, and they're a little bit further than that. They're over 1,000 miles from Los Angeles, and those are the closest ones. So yeah, the regionality of college sports has gotten totally out of whack. And what do we got here? FSU and Clemson to leave the ACC would be paying a combined $600 to $700 million to the ACC, given the much longer deal runs for $100 million each is the exit fee plus right to void the grant of rights. That's a fact. It's a lot of money, and there's been talk of, well, they can negotiate it down. Well, fine, you can. What are you going to negotiate it down to? $300 million? That's it's just, look, they signed it. Okay, nobody put them in a position where they said, well, geez, we have to sign this or run, or we're going to, we're not going to let you play. FSU and Clemson signed a document knowing full well that document lasted until 2036. Then it was a conference that signed a deal with ESPN that said, we've got your TV rights and media rights till 2036. Okay, so now, and no one thought to put a clause in the TV contract that would allow them to renegotiate it, maybe every 6 or 8 years or something like that, to at least come up to fair market value. So all of that was left out. And so now they're in this situation. They signed it, and to get out, that's it. $120 million for exit fee and potentially $300 to $400 million each to void the grant of rights. So, I understand what FSU and Clemson want and others want to get out or to get more money and all that, but they signed the agreement. So it's, they have to honor the contract, where, as you put it in the question, Jerry, they have to put up the cash. It's one or the other. It's basically play the games. And look, FSU, opens against LSU this weekend. It's going to be a crazy weekend for them. I'm not so sure that the athletic department did them any favors by acting this way prior to the season, where they had a 10-win season last year. Let's see how it goes, because anything less than being in the conference championship there's going to be blowback on that. So Clemson and FSU are set up for having bullseyes on their back for the rest of this upcoming season. So we'll look and see what that's going. I think FSU path to leaving will be declaring their intention to leave and tell the ACC, put a price on it. I don't see challenging the grant of rights in court as a likely baseline. Right. Negotiation is probably the only way they can get out of it. But it's still going to be a lot of money. I mean, let's just, for the sake of argument, say that it's a $250,000. That's a lot of money to pay to get out of the conference. I mean, it's going to take you years to make that back up. And then you better hope that the SEC and the Big Ten give you an invite. I mean, so what comes first, right? Are they invited first? And then they go and try to figure out how to get out? Because if for some reason, and there's no reason, by the way, for the ACC to just let them out easily. So I see this, if it happens, if FSU and Clemson do get invites, it's going to be if you look back at what happened with Oklahoma and Texas, right? That was pretty contentious. And they both ended up paying $100 million to get out of the Big 12. So that's going to be not a simple ask. So the ACC is going to make it hard on them to get out. So we will definitely see how that plays out. But I see what you're saying, and it makes the most sense. Omar, what you got? I've heard the argument. they can get out of the grant of rights. Well, that look, I'm sure that there are legal arguments that they can, but if they could, they would have already, and they haven't. So let's see if there's some, really sharp lawyer out there who FSU or Clemson gets, who can figure out a way to get out of it. But thus far, they haven't been able to find that person. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's see where our next question is. If they get invites beforehand, the league who invites them, are they likely to be sued for? It's true. I mean, you're absolutely true. The OU and Texas had to pay $100 million to avoid 1 year of the grant of rights to the Big 12. So you're correct in that there's a possibility of collusion, because they would say, well, wait a minute, you're tampering with people who are in our conference already. That was a point of contention in the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma. So, I mean, it's crazy. There's a lot to be done. Now, also opened the show today with our conversation about how many football games are going to be on this weekend. Tell you what, guys, do me a favor. Give me some of you've probably seen the matchups. Give me your top 3 or 4 games that I counted that it was over 100 games on starting tomorrow night and going all the way through to Monday night. So if you have a football team that you follow, chances are very good you're going to be able to find it somewhere on television over the weekend. So if you have, give me your top 3 or 4 games that you really want to watch over the weekend. There's a dozen games tomorrow night, so that's Thursday. Is a pretty amazing situation. We usually have, 1 or 2, and now we're getting a whole bunch. So, it's been a while. We talked about everything but the games. So let's talk a little bit about the games and what you want to see. North Carolina versus Carolina and South Carolina. Okay, that's a good one. TCU Colorado for Coach Prime. That's his debut. And LSU FSU, which will be played in Orlando on Saturday. Yeah. So those should be Justin. That's a good. Those are good 3. They should all. The first 2 should be interesting. I'm sorry. The first Carolina, LSU, and FSU should be interesting. I have no idea what Colorado is going to look like. I mean, TCU is coming off of making it to the championship game against Georgia. But Coach Prime and his team, I mean, they turned that whole thing all over. So I don't know what that's gonna look like. But hey, it's Deion, so it's always going to be interesting. That's for sure. North Texas and Cal. There you go. So you're a North Texas fan, KJ. All right, cool. The Mean Green against Cal. That'll be good. That game's played in Cal, right? So it'll be played at Strawberry Canyon. So yeah, North Texas. That's a team that's on the rise. They've had some really good recruiting, and they've done quite well. And up there in Denton, Texas, you got North Texas against Cal. And interestingly enough, Cal has probably had one of the best recruiting classes in years. So it should be an interesting game. So good luck to the Mean Green. The Denton, the temperature in Denton is going to be above 100 degrees for the first quarter. Oof. ECU won't beat Michigan, but we'll keep it closer than expected. Hey, you know what, Kenneth? It's funny. Yesterday, I was asked by someone what was my upset for the week, and I said ECU beat Michigan at the Big House. And the reason behind that, Kenneth, was ECU has a good football team. That's number one, and Michigan has always gotten off to horrible starts. That even in the games they've won in the past, they have not. Game 1 has not been Michigan's usual good game. They tend to build on the season. So I mean, we can all remember Appalachian State a few years ago. So, yeah, there's been schools that come in there and have beaten Michigan in the Big House. It would not surprise me if ECU was one of them. So, we'll see. Keep the Pirates going, guys. ECU all the way. ECU is dangerous, absolutely. Florida State, Omar, yours is Florida and Utah. That's tomorrow night. FSU and LSU. UCF and Kent. You're a UCF grad. Okay. UCF gets their first look. And it's funny because, as you know, Omar, I mentioned it before you got in here, that UCF used to be in the MAC and play Kent. Then they went to the Conference USA and finally over to the Big East, which became the American. So three good games. All of them, in one way or another, have Florida schools in them. Florida and Utah, that's going to be an interesting game. Both teams have quarterback issues right there. Utah, we're going to have to find out if Cam Rising can play. And Graham Mertz is starting his first game as the Florida quarterback for Billy Napier. So there's that. FSU, a lot of hype. Last year LSU and FSU played in the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans, and FSU won. This time around, they're playing in Orlando, and Chip Kelly has got a year under his belt with that LSU team. Could very well be a challenger for the top spot in the Eastern Division in the SEC. So a lot of good things going on there. UCF should be in good shape, Omar, for that game tomorrow night against Kent. But, they need to be careful. Kent is not a bad football team, and they'll be looking past them. Okay. I'll definitely want to watch Deion Sanders' show and give ECU a good chance of winning. Maybe LSU, Florida. I'm not that. The last part of your question, Jerry, I'm a little confused about what that is. A good chance at winning, maybe LSU, Florida State. Okay. You're talking about later in the season when no, I don't think ECU plays. Anyway, Deion Sanders, the Deion Show is always entertaining. Never a dull moment. I think they're going to have College Game Day. It's going to be in Boulder, Colorado for that game. So they're gonna hype up Deion as much as they can, and we'll see what kind of season they have at Colorado. Deion's son is quarterbacking, so we'll see what that's going to be looking like. All right, Michigan is used to opening with MAC schools, an AAC opponent like ECU's, bigger and higher level of talent, and they are well coached. That's true. ECU is well coached, and they continue to what might even say overachieve. They, each year they seem to be right there and give people grief. They haven't won the American yet, but they are a team that year in and year out consistently has done well in the conference, and no reason to believe that they won't continue to do well. So, hope that, like I said, because I picked them as an upset, I wouldn't be mad if they took out Michigan this week. So, SEC may be a winnable game, and I watch Florida State. Sorry, I'm hitting my. That's funny. Look, FSU is going to be. They should be good this year. I mean, they returned a bunch of players, and they know the scheme now. They know what they're supposed to be doing, and they've got two good quarterbacks, a really talented roster. So there's no excuse for Florida State not to get to that 10-win plateau again this year, and maybe even who knows, maybe you'll win the conference and head off to the playoffs. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But Mike Norvell's got some really good players on that Florida State team. let's look, guys, if you have a chance, as you can see it scrolling past you there, subscribe, hit the bell, and like us, okay? That would be greatly appreciated. So subscribe, hit the bell, and like us. What's up? Our next question from Omar. Michigan's quarterback is yet to prove that he can move the ball through the air consistently. That is a fact, okay? He kind of, and he's not Anthony Richardson in the athletic aspect of it, because he's not physically that big, but Michigan's quarterback is not a true thrower. And I think what Eastern Michigan's going to try to do is try to force him to pass and hope that, something doesn't go right there. So I think you're onto something there with Michigan and Michigan's quarterback. Now, they were successful last year, but they graduated a lot of kids off the offensive line, so that's going to be a problem for them. All right, let's see. There are a whole lot of second-year coaches that I'm interested in seeing in their program respond. Yeah, well, that's we can start with tomorrow night, because you got Billy Napier in his second year in Gainesville, and we'll see what his team looks like against Grant Mertz and Cam Rising, of course, on Utah. Really should be a very interesting game. We've got West Virginia, and very few people are giving them a chance, but West Virginia goes into Penn State. Now, Penn State has been, seen in the polls as a very good team. I mean, they're a top 10 team in most of the polls. And it's really, this is the year that that James, ought to get that act together over there and see what he can do with Penn State. They've been knocking on the door, but Ohio State just keeps keeping them out. But James Franklin at Penn State, he's got the talent. He's got the talent to do it. So let's see what they can do over at Penn State. In West Virginia, they used to be rivals many years ago, and I'm sure that West Virginia wants to go over to Beaver Stadium and beat out Penn State on Saturday night, which is the first game of the new Big Ten package for NBC. So national game on Peacock and on NBC, and it's Evan Eagle and Gary B. Anderson on the call for that game. FSU announces they are leaving for the ACC for the Big Ten and the SEC. Is that something that you that just broke and I missed it? So if they are, it'll be interesting to see who gives them the invitation. My guess is that the ACC probably. I would think the SEC first, but it could be the Big Ten. FSU in December goes 8-4, loses to Clemson, LSU, Pittsburgh, and Florida. That would be a dent in their argument that they deserve more money. That would mean that either Clemson or Pitt would be the likely winner, although it could be North Carolina in that ACC battle. I'm interested in seeing what Milton pick up where they left off. Alex Gauche, who was the offensive coordinator at Tennessee last year, is gone. And it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing plays out, because Tennessee they could light up the scoreboard, like 4th of July last year. And but now Alex Gauche has moved on to be the head football coach at USF. And actually, if you recall, went back to Tennessee even after he signed with USF last fall to coach Tennessee in the bowl game in the offense. So, yeah, it should be, look, Tennessee, there's no reason to believe Tennessee's not going to be good. I would think Tennessee's going to be very good this year. So we'll see where they left off, but I'm thinking that Tennessee is going to be good. And that game, by the way, Tennessee, all of the SEC teams open this weekend with games on ESPN. So if and the family of networks. So if you are an SEC fan, you pretty much know where to find your schools this weekend. As is the same case for most of the Big 12, are going to be on ESPN. Now, there'll be some games on Fox, some games on FS1. Big 10 has got NBC, Peacock, CBS, and Paramount Plus Fox and FS1 if you want to find them. The Pac is on ESPN, Fox, and the Pac-12 network. So there's where you can find your power conferences this weekend, and where if you want to look at the games, I will put out a list for you so you can have them. So I'll give you a guide, and that'll be later on today. I'll put it out on Twitter for you so you can find where your games are going to be. It'll be interesting, to say the least. And I know that NBC is very excited about their kickoff, which is Saturday Night Football, and they'll be in State College, Pennsylvania. So we'll see how that whole situation plays out. Let's talk just for a quick minute about who your favorite broadcasters are. I mean, we're talking here about pretty much every broadcaster who sits behind a mic is working this weekend, because, as I said, there are well over 100 games being telecast. So if you have a favorite group of announcers, let us know. I mean, I know that Fowler and Herb Street are calling the game in Utah on tomorrow night. So that's the A game for ESPN. Gus Johnson is lead announcer for Fox. You've got Brad Nessler, who does a really good job for CBS. So there are a lot of good broadcasters out there. Tim Brando, who handles a lot of the stuff for Fox. Ted Robinson, who does Pac-12 Network. So there's a lot of good broadcasters out there. And so when you get a chance, let me know what your thoughts are with those guys. Let's go back here for a moment to open on Twitter, and I'll just go ahead and refresh so we see. A lot of fans of Utah saying that the Utes are going to roll over the Gators at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So, okay. Let's see. We got people who are still thinking that the American would not make it easy for teams to leave. Plus, he doesn't think Pac 2.0 is a wise move now. Strong pitch from the American for the Pac 2 or 4. So, yeah, I don't think the idea of Pac 2.0 is going to fly. I mean, even if Stanford and Cal don't end up in the ACC, I don't think there's enough. Those 4 teams, which would be Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, and Washington State, make a lot of sense to build a conference around them. It makes more sense for them to onboard, if that all is possible. So no, I don't think that's something that we're going to see. I think they'll either take the Mountain West or they'll take the American route from that standpoint. Let's see what we got here. We've got Tim. Hey, Tim, how are you? Those are my favorite. Keith Jackson, Vern Lundquist, and Brent Musburger. Those, my friend, are 3 very, very good broadcasters. Outstanding people. Keith Jackson, so many, many years behind the mic there. Vern Lundquist, one of the nicest men you're ever going to meet. and also same for Brent Musburger. All those gentlemen are in their 80s, and they kind of kicked back and watching the games. Keith Jackson out in Los Angeles, where he lives, Vern Lundquist. Vern used to live in the Dallas area. He moved up to Colorado, where he and his wife have a home there, and he enjoys the good life in that regard. And then Brent, of course, many know that Brent still does work. He's done the Oakland Raiders radio for a number of years, and he lives out in Vegas, where he enjoys having some fun out there. So three good choices. Very good choices. CBS and the SEC were together for a very long time. And speaking of Vern was, of course, that voice of the SEC on CBS for a number of years. So, yeah, that's a definite, it'll be missed, but they'll be filling in they'll be filling SEC in with Big Ten stuff. So there you go. Curb Street, Joe Klatt, Gary Danielson. Yeah, all three of those guys are good. They're very well prepared. And as analysts, they make it simple. And I think that's the key to a good color analyst is, boiling things down, making it simple so that if you've never watched the game before, it'll be good. Jerry, thanks very much. And be back and visit us early and often every day here at 10 o'clock. So it's always good to have you guys in the house because you ask good questions. So there we go on that. Let's see. By the way, on that list, put Ted Robinson, Ted of the Pac-12 network. I know a lot of people can't get that, but if you do have a chance to see it, it's a good network. And Ted, of course, has been around doing a number of different things. So we'll see how that goes. No, to the best of my knowledge, there has not been a rescheduling of the meeting for the ACC yet. They may, again, all they have to do is a Zoom call. It's not like they have to physically be there. So let's see how things work out here in the next day or so, or at least the next 24 hours before. I wouldn't expect that they'll get together today, but they may very well do it on Friday. Let's see. Oregon State versus Fresno State is a good game coming up, they say, and that's Mr. Wave. He wants to see Oregon State, Fresno State. Okay, they don't play this weekend, but they do play later in the season, so I'm sure that'll be good. And what else we got? They're looking for flipping votes, so we'll see how that works out. And let's go back here. Do you have any expectations for the meeting today? I do. I think that there will be a place at the table for the non-power conferences, which, we're now down to, 4 power conferences. We started with 6, we're down to 4. So yeah, I think there's going to be the champions of each one of the conferences. So there's 4 right there. And then the rest will be at large. And I hope they seed them kind of like the NCAA tournament seeds. So we'll see how that works out. Obviously, you're going to see the Big Ten and the SEC try, I'm sure, to dominate those slots that are left open. But I do think that they want to leave room for the group of 5 schools, the American, the Mountain West, and so on, so that this makes a very interesting deal. Because remember, they only have 1 more year left on this before the contract goes out. And so when they do this in 2024, in 2025, it'll be out for contract for the TV deal. So they need to make it something that is compelling. And the more teams you get into it, the more compelling it can be because larger fan bases. So my guess is that they're not going to cap it at 8. They're probably going to go to 12. And 4, as we said before, go to those conferences. The rest will be at-large bids. And they're going to play at least the first game of those playoffs on the campus of the higher seeded team. So people get to see the games, at home, which would be kind of cool too. So yeah, it's an exciting time for that, and we'll see who wins. There's going to be Fox, ESPN, and NBC for sure. Probably CBS in there, but at least those 3 bidding on the playoffs. So they definitely need to make it exciting so that they can get more folks bidding into that. And I would imagine a streamer would be in there too, whether it's Amazon or whether it's Apple. There's definitely going to be a streaming component to all this. So that extra money has to come from somewhere. And my guess is it's going to come from the pocket of Jeff Bezos or folks, Tim Cook over at Apple. So let's see what we got here. All right, guys. Wrapping things up. Any last question? Got a couple. Got a couple quick ones. All right. Guaranteed slots beyond the conference championships are going to kill the tension of the regular season. Well, it could, but it also could excite people to want to get to a point where they can get to that playoffs. I mean, look at what they've done for Major League Baseball in the excitement of making the playoffs in baseball. The wild card teams, have done very well and won a number of series. So I would say that there's a chance of what you say could be true, but most likely there'll be excitement because you'll get to say, okay, fine. You can still lose 2 or 3, even 3 games, I guess, 2, depending upon who you lose those 3 games too, and still get into the playoffs and still play your way in. So you can get one as, a hot team that maybe was, had a few bumps along the way or some injuries along the way, but now they're ready to go. So I wouldn't rule that out. I wouldn't say that that's going to kill the season. It'll just make the season hopefully interesting because you'll want to make the playoffs. So it's a different wrinkle. So we'll take different wrinkles. Okay, guys. Now tomorrow we'll talk about the games. We'll talk about the games being played. We will, as I said before, we'll put out lists so that you know where the games are going to be played, what they're going to be doing, what channel you can watch them on, and all that good stuff, and who some of the broadcasters. So by all means, join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. You guys are fantastic. If you don't have, if you have any questions later, or if you came in late and want to watch what happened early, no problem. Just leave the comments in the comment section below, and I will get back to you and answer them. Okay. So everyone have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks again, guys.